Thank you, David, for inviting me here. You and your team have done a fantastic job putting together this event. I've witnessed earlier a fantastic conversation between two gentlemen that I admire. I'm not originally from here, I'm originally from Romania, by the way. I moved to the States, to Texas, to Austin, basically a year ago. And since then, I'm learning a lot of great things about, of course, Austin, about Texas, and of course about this great nation, which is the US. And I'm not just saying that to impress you. It's really an interesting time, or times, to be here, particularly for someone that has an international perspective. I've worked for nearly 2 decades at the intersection of economic development and innovation. And I can tell you that I've traveled to so many geographies outside the US, of course, internationally, and I've never seen such a dynamic and such a diversified and specialized economy. Not only in this corridor that we are talking about today or these days, but throughout Texas and throughout the US. And again, I'm not saying that just to impress you. This is a perspective of someone that has a background in economics, international business development, and a bit of economic diplomacy. Okay, before diving into the Texas Northern Mexico corridor, basically North America's industrial Alberta, with AI-enabled factories and record trade, as well as a binational talent engine, I would like to give you a context on who we are and what drives our work. If the clicker works. Okay, there it is. So, Angelou Economics is a strategic economic development consulting firm. We specialize in economic development, of course, in site selection, public policy. This year we celebrated 30 years of existence, 30 years of experience of working with governments as well as companies. We've done over 700 strategic economic development plans for 700 cities across US and worldwide, for about a dozen of US states and over 20 countries. And on top of that, we've done work for over 350 private companies, some of the biggest names in their field, like Samsung, Oracle, Intel, AMD, so forth and so on. And we've also located or cited over $30 billion worth of investment projects for clients around the world. And the other two companies, I want to call them sister companies of Angelou Economics, they are more related to each other. One is our accelerator for startups, which is called International Accelerator. No fancy name there, but it's very clear. It's an international, it's a VC-backed accelerator for international founders. So we focus exclusively on foreign-born entrepreneurs. We bring them to the States and we help them scale, launch and scale their business here and beyond. We have over 60 portfolio companies in our portfolio, 60 portfolio companies, 60 companies in our portfolio, if you will, from 30 countries. These companies have managed to raise so far over $170 billion, and their market value is over $1.5 billion in total. We have an extensive network of mentors, an extensive network of country ambassadors, but more importantly, we have managed to create 2 unicorn companies, and in our current program, we are about 3 to 4 unicorns in the making. The IAGB fund is actually our investment arm, if you will, that invests in our portfolio companies, not outside of our portfolio, and helps or provides our startups with both capital and market access. We build bridges between policy, innovation, and investment. That's what we like to believe and say at our group of companies. So let's dive into the Texas-Mexico Northern Corridor. What is changing on the factory floor? Okay. To answer that, we need to understand what, or at least to try to define what manufacturing reimagined means. It's where industry meets intelligence from our point of view. Robots don't just take jobs, they take instructions, basically, and follow them and execute them. Companies want production closer to markets and data. And this is also about how a geography, if you will, turns proximity and intelligence into a competitive advantage. Just what we heard earlier from David and Loredo, or about Loredo. And the Texas-Mexico corridor, it's actually the perfect case study. It blends talent, suppliers, and logistics, boosting resilience, which means shorter lead times, lower risk, and of course, faster learning, because that's what it's all about. We are seeing record demand for industrial real estate. Again, the previous speaker has emphasized on that. We see new factories, logistics hubs, and smart infrastructure more and more, because the production wants and is moving closer to the markets and data. Bottom line, capacity beats smart capacity beats cheap capacity. We are not chasing low cost anymore. We are chasing high IQ. But how did we get here? Well, it has been said earlier. In 1994, NAFTA was launched. And NAFTA became, or actually opened the gateway to an integrated North American market. And from there, in the 2000s, we experienced the Maquila expansion, or maquiladoras, the famous Mexico-based factories that import parts duty-free, assemble them, or process them, and re-export the finished goods, typically or usually to the US. In 2020, we had the USMCA, which replaced the NAFTA agreement, and also modernized the rules. Between 22 and 2024, we had the semiconductor and advanced manufacturing, or EV, including EV, boom, or revolution that reshaped the map. As of 2025, the physical AI era begins, kind of. We have a lot of integration of robotics, AI, and other, intelligent solutions. Physical AI moves from cloud to factory floor. We are building factories that learn, and they learn very fast. An integrated ecosystem, not just a trade route. But why this corridor, you would ask yourselves. And I ask myself the same question. This corridor, by the way, ranks among top 3 mega regions in North America, as well as top 10 globally, rivaling with Pearl River Delta in China, with Rhine-Ruhr in Germany, as well as Greater Tokyo in Japan. Well, in my view, it's the numbers that tell the story. The numbers tell the story of one of the world's most integrated cross-border economies. Core metros with approximately 15 million people, deep stem pipelines, and a combined GDP of $690 billion across Austin, San Antonio, Laredo, Monterrey, Reynosa, Saltillo, of course, and Matamoros. and many others, fueled by and fueling a significant trade that has been already said here, over $840 billion between US and Mexico in 2024, and over $280 billion between Texas and Mexico. These are hubs that span semiconductors, auto, aerospace, medtech, IT, logistics, and many more. Bottom line, the corridor is borderline brilliant, borderline by design. And because, each mega region has an engine, to this corridor, that engine is Texas. And of course, as everybody knows already, everything is bigger in Texas, with a population that grows beyond 30 million people, 31 million people actually, making Texas the second most populous state among the US states, with a GDP close to $2.8 trillion in 2024, which makes it, again, the second after California among the US states, and the 8th largest economy if Texas were a country. And, some might like to see that. Over 1 million tech workers, 70,000 STEM graduates every year. Number one in exports among the US states for 23 years in a row, which is amazing. $455 billion in exports only in 2024. Number one in semiconductor manufacturing, number two in semiconductor design. And this is getting very interesting. 1,900 FDI projects attracted in the past decades, totaling over $190 billion and 167,000 jobs created, which is amazing. Translation, innovation, talent, and confidence power the corridor. The cities, I don't want to repeat because you know already the cities, and these are the stats, the main stats about each city on this corridor, which again has a population of 15 million, combined population of 15 million people, the GDP of over $600 billion, $690 billion, and powers the trade between the US and of course the Texas and Mexico. Let me give you the corridor's economic pulse, if you will. Okay. We went from a pandemic shock in 2020 to steady expansion to $840 billion trade by 2024 between the US and Mexico. And now into the 2025 momentum driven by AI, automation, and dual nation manufacturing. Over 150 new industrial facilities have been completed or announced in the last 5 years only.